Hi folks, and welcome to this first video in the setup series. In this video I'm going to tackle the subject of what to do even before you pull the instrument out of the case, and that is making an embouchure. And I'm going to answer two key questions, the first of which is why we should be concerned with making an embouchure, and the second, how to do it. So the first question, why? When we look at string technique, string teachers understand how important it is to hold the bow in a certain way. Yeah, you could hold the bow any way you wanted to, but there's a specific way in which they hold the bow, in which they teach children to hold a bow. And that's because when we hold it in a certain way, we allow ourselves flexibility and freedom to learn any kind of technique we need to and not be inhibited by ways of holding the bow that can be destructive. Do we think it would be any less important for a brass player when it's our lips that are doing the vibrating rather than the string? No, in fact, it's probably even more important for a brass player to establish good habits, because what we do on the outside is going to have a very direct bearing on what we do on the inside. It's sort of like a trampoline. If you imagine a trampoline, it has springs going all the way around the trampoline, and when those springs function, and they're all working, you can jump up and down on the trampoline all day and it'll work. And you can jump to the left of the right, to the left of the trampoline, to the right of the trampoline, to the top of it, to the bottom, and you'll get a predictable reaction. But if you take some of those springs off, yeah, can the trampoline still work? Yes, it could. But there are going to be areas where it works less well and areas where it works more well. And in general, it will be less consistent. It will be less predictable. There will be less predictability with the trampoline. And we're talking about brass playing. When we're talking about brass playing, and we're talking about that the instrument itself can be kind of unpredictable because of all the sheer number of notes that we can play, and with a given length of tube, we want predictability and stability. Those are essential. So, the second question of how to do it. If you just remember 4 keywords, that will help you through. Corners, chin, anchor, and pivot. First, corners. When we make an embouchure, we want our corners to be firm. I mentioned stability. We can say stable corners, or we can use the term firm corners. I like stable corners, but especially for young players, firm is frequently helpful. So, how do we do it? Well, if I start off in a neutral position and then firm my corners, here's what it looks like. Once again, neutral, firm. Now, second, chin. What we want to do is we want to either point the chin or flatten the chin, and either word can work. You can use both the words and when you're talking with your students, flatten or point. And it looks like this: firm corners, flat chin. Corners, chin. Once we have that, then we talk anchor. And what we mean by anchor is we want to take the inside portion of this mouthpiece right there, the inside edge of the rim, and we want to place it to anchor it in a place around the bottom lip area that's going to allow us to place our mouthpiece between 50-50 top to bottom and 60-40 top to bottom. There are very specific reasons for doing that, and I don't need to get into those in this particular video, perhaps another video, but roughly 50-50 to 60-40. And so when we anchor, you're going to find with young players, with the mouthpieces that they get, frequently a good starting point to do that is to find the spot, not the intersection, but the junction between the flesh of the lip and the flesh of the face. Find the line and use that as a starting point for your young players, and see if anchoring there will place them in that general area. And what it looks like is this. I'm going to set up this way. You can see corners, chin, anchor, here. And I'm setting up so the inside rim is going to be right at about that point. And then when I say pivot, we simply pivot the mouthpiece up. I'll breathe through my nose. And I'm set up to make a good vibration. And here's what it looks like on the other side. Corners, chin, anchor, pivot. And you see the minimal adjustment that I have. Now, that's a starting point. Every child's going to be different. You may find with some kids you're going to wind up setting closer to on their lip. With other kids, you may wind up setting below that point. but roughly 50-50 to 60-40 is a good starting point. Lastly, it's really important to do this before the instrument comes out of the case, because let's face it, once the instrument comes out of the case, the kids are going to want to play. So, to the extent if you can get a hold of your music store and ask for an advance of the mouthpieces, can they deliver the mouthpieces that come with the instruments early? Can you get a stash of mouthpieces that you just keep in your band room? Stash of however many you think you might need for your particular department or for your particular school size. Or, at worst case scenario, when all the instruments come in and the kids are excited to pick up the horns, if you have had a couple of lessons ahead of time to show them how to make an embouchure, you could send them home with their mouthpiece for a week, let them experiment with making a buzz and with making an embouchure and doing that and getting that vibration to happen, and then when they get their instruments, they already have a good foundation. It's really important to understand kids are not going to be able to do this without looking in a mirror. They don't know what it's going to feel like, they're not going to understand what they need to do, but if they look in the mirror, they'll be able to, through trial and error, figure out what muscles they need to use. And even if you could specify the exact name of the muscle, they wouldn't know how to use it. But by looking in the mirror and experimenting, they can learn what it means to firm their corners, to flatten their chin or point their chin, and away they go. Set, anchor, pivot, and ready to go. So I hope you found this video helpful, and good luck.